guys, and welcome to my quarterly reading wrap up. First order of business, if you've been here before, you may notice something new: a mic. My friends gave me some mics for my birthday, which was in March, and this is my first time using them in a video, so hopefully it sounds good. When I was first testing them out, like on my birthday, the sound quality was so bad, but I think it's because my recording volume was like really high on my camera and it wasn't like cooperating with the mic. But I think I found a sweet spot now. So we'll see. Hopefully, this sounds good once I'm done. So, I haven't done any reading wrap ups this year because I thought quarterly would be a good way to do it. Since last year, I was averaging like 6 books a month ish. And honestly, the first 3 months of this year have been subpar for my reading, to say the least, with the amount of books I'm reading. Anyways, let's just jump right into it. I'm excited to talk about all of the books that I've read so far this year because not all of them have been in reading vlogs. I've done a few reading vlogs with some of the books, but some of them I've never even mentioned before. And there have been some good ones. This is going to be for the first quarter of the year, January, February, March. In January, I read 5 books. In February, I read 6 books. And in March, I only read 4 books. I'm going to put a little graphic of like the genre split for all 3 months up on the screen now. I'm not sure what it is at this moment, but I'm going to make one on Canva and put it on the screen. So enjoy that. So jumping right into it, my first read of the year was The Women by Kristen Hanna. This was my first Kristen Hanna book, and I had very high expectations for this. In this, we're essentially following our main character, Frankie, who is a nurse at a hospital, but is not given very much responsibility and is craving more. We see Frankie discover that she can actually become a nurse for the Army or Navy to help out in the war. We watch her journey of trying to become one of these nurses for the wounded soldiers, how much of a struggle that is in the first place. Then we watch her be stationed and all of the tragedy that she sees and trauma that she goes through while she's serving. And then we watch her come back once the war has ended and see all the difficulty that she faces once she's trying to integrate back into regular society. I did really like Frankie in this, and I did really like following her journey. I found some parts of this were a little bit long-winded, and it felt like it was dragging a little bit at certain parts, but overall, I really liked this. One of my favorite parts, actually, probably my favorite parts, were the female friendships that Frankie makes with other nurses while she's away at war and how these are lasting true friendships, and just seeing these women love each other and care for each other. I love that aspect of this. So I ended up rating this one a 3.75. Oh yeah, and you will see January was the month of 3.75s for me. Next book is We Live Here Now by Sarah Pinborough. In this, we're following Emily, who, after a near-death experience, decides with her husband that they're going to move out to the English countryside into this like gothic manor. They're going to fix up this old house and make it their own. When they get there, Emily starts noticing things are really creepy, basically. She feels like she's hearing somebody walking around upstairs. Things are moving on their own. She's completely creeped out. But then when she tries to tell her husband about it, he's like, "You're literally only seeing these things when you're alone. I don't really believe you." After this happens so many times, Emily's like, "Oh my God, like, is it actually me? Like, am I the problem here?" She did have an infection when she was in the hospital, and she's wondering if this is like her post sepsis brain causing hallucinations. This story has a very eerie vibe the whole time. Like, picture English countryside, a fog settling over these rolling hills, and then a creepy Victorian manor that's like kind of rickety up on a hill. That's the vibes that I got from this the whole time. And yes, this probably would be classified as like a haunted house story where like there's creepy stuff happening in the house and you're like, okay, is it haunted or is something wrong with the person? But I liked this because they actually do leave the house a lot and you see Emily like conversing with other people from the nearby small town. That adds to the like eeriness of this, and I really like that aspect of this. I also gave this one a 3.75. I don't think this one would be for everybody, but if you're into the unsettling vibe of what is happening in this house, then I think you should give this one a try. Next, I read When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. Finally, this was my first Nat Cassidy book. I had never read anything from him before, and I was very, very excited and nervous to read something from him because I've heard him be so hyped up by horror lovers that I was like, I'm scared that I'm not going to like him or like it's going to be such a flop for me. But this was just so good. So the story starts out basically, and we're with Jess, who is a struggling actress living in an apartment. She finds a young boy one evening out hiding in the bushes by her apartment. So she takes him in, and then they quickly find themselves running for their lives under the threat of this boy's father. Right off the bat, as they're fleeing, Jess is like, okay, we're running from like an abusive, controlling man who is spiraling because his kid ran away and now he is like, I don't have any sense of control anymore. But she soon finds out that things are much darker than that. Based on that synopsis, this sounds scary. And it definitely is. They're getting chased by scary man. There is blood, there is gore, there is death. Like all of that is there for sure, but there's also really beautiful conversations on complicated relationships with parents. And additionally, a little aspect of found family in here that I ended up just really enjoying. I listened to the audiobook for this and there was an afterword, and Nat Cassidy is narrating, and it literally made me cry. Doesn't take much, but he has such a beautiful way with words, and I'm just so excited to read more from him now after this one. I gave this a 4 stars. Honestly, might even be higher than that. This was such a great read, but you're only going to like this if you like horror and if you're okay with gore and kind of stuff outside of the human realm, I guess. Next book was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is a historical fiction where our main character, Addie LaRue, is living in the 1700s, I believe, when she makes a deal with the devil that she can live forever, but no one will ever remember her outside of like a conversation that they're having with her. Addie is just kind of coasting through life after this point. She can't really have any real relationships because nobody can ever remember her for more than like 3 minutes until one day, almost 300 years after she makes this deal, she's in New York City and a random boy in a bookshop remembers her. She meets him one day, she goes back the next day, and he remembers her. She's like, what the fuck? Like, what's happening right now? This must be a glitch. I felt very late to the train on this book, but I wanted to see what all the hype was about. I was nervous going in because I didn't really like Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil, like at all, really. There were some aspects I liked, but people were saying that that was like a 6-star read for them, and I was like, this is like actually 2.5 stars, I think. However, I did end up liking this one. It took me a little bit to get into, and I did find that it dragged a little bit at certain parts. I really liked Addie's relationships in this, like her 2 main relationships. Don't want to spoil anything. I like the dynamic of both of them. I don't know, I thought it was fun. Even though you're probably only actually supposed to like one of them, I like them both. And I do like V.E. Schwab's writing. I think that her writing is very captivating when you're like into the story. So I think I am settling on a 3.5 for this. I think initially I gave it 3.75. I think it's more like a 3.5. And the last book that I read in January was Transcendent Kingdom by Ya Jiazi. This is a character-driven book. We are following Gifty, who is a PhD student who has taken on caring for her mother, who is pretty severely depressed while she's still a student in school and living in a pretty small apartment. Throughout the novel, we're getting flashbacks to Gifty's childhood and upbringing. We're seeing her relationship dynamics with both of her parents. We're seeing expectations that they put on Gifty and her brother. And then present day, we see her reflecting on her upbringing. There are discussions around depression, addiction, complicated parental relationships, religion, and how what your parents believe in sometimes is forced onto you, even if you're not quite sure on it. I really liked everything the author had to say on all of those topics. I didn't feel super attached to Gifty or really anybody in the story, but I still thought it was a good read. I think if you like how Emily Austen writes her characters, you would probably like this. When I'm reading an Emily Austen book, I feel much more attached to her characters than I did in this, but the tone of the novel kind of felt similar to Emily Austen's. So I ended up giving this one also a 3.75. Now, into February, my first read was Such Quiet Girls by Noelle W. Illy. This is about a school bus full of children that get kidnapped along with their bus driver as they're en route like back from school one day. This is supposed to be a thriller, and I really don't think it should be classified as that. This did not feel like a thriller. It was honestly pretty boring to me. It felt very repetitive and predictable. I honestly didn't really care about any of the characters. The POV is switching up throughout this book, and you are in the perspective of a few of the kids on the bus for like a few chapters. Unfortunately, they didn't really feel like they were kids to me. Like it felt like an adult writing kids, which I feel like writing from a kid's perspective as an adult is probably difficult to do, but it really didn't land for me. Also, there is a POV in this from the mother of two of the girls that are on the bus. And although I understand like the intrigue of having that POV and what that could bring to the table, the execution was done poorly, I think. And whenever we were in her perspective, I wanted to be out. I was like, get me out of here. Now, apparently, this is based on true events, which terrible and frightening. But the way that the story was told in this, I just didn't love it. It didn't work for me. I ended up giving this one 2 stars. The next book in February was The Guncle by Stephen Rowley. This is about Patrick, the Guncle, who takes in his niece and nephew for the summer after his brother's wife passes away from an illness. I thought this was very, very sweet. I loved Patrick's relationship with his niece and nephew, and I loved watching him try to have these difficult conversations about grief with them. I also really liked the setting of this. Patrick is an actor. He was like a really big actor a few years ago or something. So he has like a big mansion in like the Hollywood Hills or something, which was awesome to read about. And that's how these kids were spending their summer. Something that bothered me though was it felt like there were too many other plot points going on outside of Patrick being with the kids and like helping the kids. I understand that he has his own life too, but like if that happened to you, I feel like it would take over your life, right? I just wanted to see more of them together and how they were spending their time together and how the time that they were spending together was positively impacting all of them. There was also a storyline with Patrick's sister that I felt like could have just been left out completely. Like it felt like it really didn't matter at all. And I didn't really feel like it went anywhere either. Overall, I did enjoy my time with this book though, and I would like to try more from Stephen Rowley. I know there is a second book in this the Guncle series. I don't know if I would read that one, but I would try something else from this author for sure. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. Okay, guys, next book, How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates by Shaylee Thompson. This book was so fun. I picked this up because the premise of this sounded so insane and crazy. I was like, this is either going to be like very good or very bad. Essentially, in this, our main character, Jamie, goes to a speed dating event with her best friend, Lori. On one of her dates, she sat down at the table when the lights suddenly go out. When they come back on, the man that is sitting across from her, his neck is slit. He's dead and bloody. And from there, more horror ensues. It's a bloodbath, babe. We follow Jamie and the rest of the survivors of this initial attack, running for their lives and hiding from this killer who they don't know who it is. There's all these references to horror movies in this that I loved. Like, if you're a horror movie buff, if you like all the classics, I think you would like this. Well, some people get annoyed because there's so many references, but I really liked it. I don't know, it felt nerdy to me and it felt on brand for like what we were doing and who Jamie, our main character, is. She's obsessed with horror movies. This is a slasher rom-com. It's giving like Scream, Friday the 13th, those vibes, but also then you have like a rom-com romance storyline. And listen, I don't love reading a straight romance very much these days, but Jamie gets involved with one of these guys and like that's the main romance of the book, and I loved them together. I loved them and I loved him. Like, it was so much fun. You cannot take this book too seriously. Go into it ready to have fun and with the expectations that it's going to be like Scream, Friday the 13th, one of the classic horror movie vibes plus rom com vibes on top of that. And I think you'll enjoy it. Also, oh my God, I listened to the audiobook for this. If you can get the audiobook for this, listen to it, girl. The sound effects, there's like it's like a neck slitting sound effect. There's like screams in it. Oh my God. It was cinematic. It was great. Very, very well done. My favorite audiobook I've listened to so far this year, I think. The next two books that I read were in my fantasy reading vlog. So if you want full thoughts on them, go watch that. First, I read The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I found this one dragged on. I loved the queer representation. I haven't read very many fantasy books, so I think this was like one of two that I've read maybe with queer representation. I really liked that. And there was a dragon rider perspective in this of a girl that was like in dragon rider school and is graduating and then is now a dragon rider. And I loved that storyline a lot. If there was ever a book to be published about her time like in dragon riding school, I would absolutely read it. But honestly, like by the time I was done, I was like, that's it. I just read like 800 pages and that's it. I initially gave this 3 stars and I like actually feel like it maybe is 2.5, which is insane. And I didn't want to rate it lower than 3 simply because it is so long, but it low key put me in a slump after. Anyways, so 2.5/3 stars. Then next, I read Cinder House by Freya Marsk, or Marsky, not sure. I also gave this one a 2.5. This was pitched to me as a sapphic Cinderella retelling, and hey, it wasn't. Main romance in this, MF romance. Not what I signed up for, babe. Not what I signed up for. I will say I did like Freya Marsky's writing a lot, and I would like to try something else from her, but I need to have like better expectations going into it because I fear like my expectations set me up for failure. If I knew that the main romance in this was MF, I wouldn't have read it. So, and the final book that I read in February was Breaking from Frame by Jazz Forrester. Full thoughts on this are in my sapphic reading vlog. I read sapphic books for a week, but essentially this is a historic lesbian romance set in 1969. We are following Claire, our main character, who has a house and a husband, and they're hoping to get pregnant within the next short period of time, even though that's not what Claire wants. It's just what she knows is her wifely duty. But one day, a woman moves in next door named Jackie, and Claire's world is flipped upside down. This is very slow burn and very much yearning, which I loved. It's a self discovery story on top of a romance. Something I really loved about this is that the love interest, Jackie, is very comfortable in her identity and her sexuality, and she helps Claire realize and then come to terms with her identity and sexuality. And I just thought that aspect of it was really, really sweet. Jackie is essentially like, you do not have to settle living this life that you don't want to live. Like, there are other options out there, babe. Like me. I love them together so much, and I love Jazz Forrester. I gave it 4 stars. Okay, now into my flop month, March. I am gonna blame it on The Priory of the Orange Tree. I do think I was having a hard time getting into books after that. I found myself not even really wanting to read. Like, I would be walking to work and I was like, "Ah, I'll just listen to music." When normally I'm like, I'll listen to 10 minutes of my audiobook. So I do think that did take a little bit of a toll on me. However, we continue on. I had an Audible credit and I wanted to get a sapphic romance on Audible that I couldn't get on Spotify and maybe even Indigo. So I go browsing and I find this book, The Anatomy of Forever by T.B. Markinson and Miranda McLeod. This is an age gap romance with 2 doctors, and it's also best friend's stepmother. Going into it, I don't think I knew it was best friend's stepmother. I knew it was age gap, I think. But when the best friend's stepmother thing was revealed, which it happens pretty early on, I was gagged. We have Simone and Rowan. Simone shows up on her first day of work, only to find that the woman that she hooked up with a couple years ago is her new boss. That woman that she hooked up with a few years ago is also her best friend's stepmother. And her best friend doesn't know that they hooked up. They establish their relationship pretty quickly in this, which I didn't love. I like the tension build up and the drag it out and the glances across the room, and I just love that. I just eat it up. So didn't love that they were like, we're dating now, really, really quick, or what felt really, really quick. It wasn't actually really, really quick, but too soon for me. However, this left more room for another plot in this book. So this wasn't just romance main focus. There was another plot in this that had to do with hospital drama, and it was actually, I was like, yeah, it was actually really fun. So I really like that aspect of this book, because I feel like a lot of romance books are not it's just romance is the main thing. And if there's anything else, it has to do directly with the couple. But this didn't. This had to do with their jobs, I guess. I don't know. It just felt different. I just really liked it. They end up going sleuthing together and trying to figure out what this big hospital drama thing is, what's going on. And I just thought that was fun. I have never read from these authors before, but they have a bunch of stuff. A bunch of their books are on Audible, so maybe I'll get another one because I did really enjoy this one. I ended up giving it a 3.75. It just didn't really have the same impact as Breaking from Frame, which I gave 4 stars. It's how do I even come up with these 0.25 ratings? I don't know, girl. It's a feeling. It's a feeling. I would like to better establish what these ratings are. My 3.75 versus 4 stars. What is that, girl? What's the difference there? But for now, it's just a feeling. This one's 3.75 and Breaking from Frame is 4. It's just how I feel. So that was my first read of March. It's not in any videos prior to this one. The next read that I had in March was The Paying Guests by Sarah Waters, and that one is in my Sapphic reading vlog, along with Breaking from Frame. So for full thoughts, go watch that one because I'm just gonna kind of skim here. Essentially, A widow and her daughter have to take in a young couple as lodgers so they can afford to keep living in their house. This is post World War One, and the husband of the house and then the brothers all tragically died at war. A love affair ends up ensuing between the daughter and then the woman of the couple. And we're watching them sneaking around and trying to be with each other and stealing kisses and glances and all that stuff. And it was great. And I was eating it up. And then suddenly, in the last third of this book, something horrific happens, and it's suddenly a high stakes mystery. I did end up really enjoying this aspect a lot. It was just a complete switch up from like their yearning romance, like we need to be together. The first 2/3 of this book, it was such a 180. So at first I was like, whoa, weird. Like the dynamic has changed so much. But I really liked how it was written, that part of it, especially like the mystery aspect of it. I really, really liked. I thought it was done really well. This was a pretty thick book, and it didn't feel like it was that thick while I was reading it. I was really absorbed in the story and Sarah Waters' writing. So I'm definitely going to try more from her now. Didn't end up loving the ending. It was a little bit unsatisfying, but I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. I had a fun time. I definitely recommend this one. If you like romance that's kind of genre bending, like there's another aspect to the plot, you might like this one a lot. Next book, Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. This is a 17-year-old girl who's in high school getting into an affair with her 42-year-old married teacher with a son. Obviously, this is going to be just like disgusting to read. However, I know I have read stories that follow this type of storyline where it's supposed to be like hot that the student is getting with the teacher. I think Jeanette McCurdy did a good job of making sure that it didn't come across like that, even when our main character, Waldo, the young girl, was sexualizing her teacher and being like, oh my God, he's so hot. Like, you should see him. At the beginning of their relationship, she was very much all over him like that. So I thought she did a good job with not romanticizing that aspect of the story. However, there were still some scenes that I was like, girl, did we need to? Did we need to go there? If you've read this, the period scene, like, did we need to? Felt like it was just done for the shock factor and like really could have just been left out. Like I could have had the same experience with the story, I feel like, if that was just left out. I enjoyed seeing Waldo's emotions as the relationship progressed, but overall, kind of an unsatisfying conclusion to me. There were some great quotes in the story that I was like, damn, that's just like thrown in there. So I ended up settling on 3 stars for this one. My last read for March, I finished just a few days ago. Best Offer Wins by Marissa Kashino. Our main character, Margot, wants a house. After multiple failed attempts to secure one, she realizes she needs to go to drastic measures in order to get the house of her dreams. If you like reading about unhinged, completely out of touch, and somewhat unlikable characters, I think you would really like this book. This is also a debut novel, which is amazing. Like, I loved this. I ended up giving this 4.5 stars, and I will absolutely read whatever this author comes out with next. This was so much fun. So, overall, my reading has been absolutely everywhere this year. I have yet to find a 5 star also. So, probably going to make that a reading vlog coming up soon, because what the hell, man? No 5 stars. We're 3 months in. But also, I've only read 15 books. I think I am behind where I was this time last year. However, I am 3 books ahead of schedule. So That's fine. I think I might just take a break from fantasy for a bit. Priory of the Orange Tree, I fear, did slump me out a bit. I'm going to try and read some more literary fiction within the next few months because that's normally where I get my 5 stars from. I will also have a book haul coming up soon that I'm going to put in a video because my birthday was just last month. So I have accumulated some books over, the birthday month. I hope you liked today's video. Let me know if you guys have read any of these and what you thought, or if you're gonna try any of these now that you've heard me talk about them. Definitely lots of books that I would recommend, mostly books that I would recommend. We are gonna get some 5 stars under our belt soon. Also, does my mic sound good? Or is it like too much? Happy April, and I will see you guys in the next one. Wait, I want 2 of my hands for my wave.